Thank you, Dapo, and it's good to be here. Essentially, like reiterated in many places and will continue to do, the Obidient Movement is it's rooted, it's founded on the principles of democratic values, of integrity, of transparency, accountability. It is characterized by the um, ethos of Mr. Peter Obi's discipline as a person on on what we call the 5 C's: consistency, character, compassion, competence, and the likes on such values. You can see that between 2022 2023, it's the energy that evolved from from the different movement, that has rejected the old order and the way politics is being carried out and the emergence of leaders across board in Nigeria. It took many years for us to get to this place where vote buying, rigging, the different things that has propelled the current political leadership that we have today, as it were. This movement, essentially, it's against, some of these, bad, how do you put it now, bad ethics, So it's here to reshape, to reform, and to bring in a new essence of engagement. And that is why you can see what happened during the 2023 general election, how efforts and energies were galvanized and gravitated around the persona of Mr. Peter Obi to ensure, following the trajectory of what he did, his lifestyle and how he governed, Anambra State. If you go, you will see how he moved education from number 27 to number 21 in terms of our performances. There still echoes up until today. You can see that how he saved a lot of millions and billions of nairas and dollars for the state. We're looking at cutting the cost of governance, transparency in terms of how we carry out contracts in government and in the bureaucratic, characterizations of how we do things. This is what the movement essentially is about. There is so much to be said about it. It is a total overhaul of how Nigerians practice our politics. This is why you will hear the Obidient Movement. It's an ideology that is driven for zero tolerance for corruption, zero tolerance for electioneering rigging, and some of the things that we see today, So this is the essence of the movement. It's essentially, like you re-emphasize, good governance, accountability, and transparency in every strata and every structure of governance in the country.
Okay, I mean, you of course talked about how this movement, was coined out of, support for presidential candidate of the Labour Party in 2023 polls. That's in person of Peter Obi. But recently, it's come under, what I call it, mixed reviews. Because, just yesterday, Nigeria's former head of state released his memoir in person of General Badamasi Babangida, where he addressed some controversial issues when he was in power. And then Peter Obi actually did praise the former head of state, even put it out on social media because he attended. And some Nigerians are saying, look, why are you praising this man when, if you go, into the annals of history, it was maybe part of the problems of this country. Now you are affiliating and even going to the extent of praising, such a man, and you are saying you're a person of integrity. How does this, add up?
He made a comparison of our current economic quagmire as compared to when IBB was head of state. And if you look very clearly in terms of every ramification, it was a lot better then than what we have now. That was the comparison he made. And clearly you can see that even though he was a military president, the issues were very clear. Up until today, if you look at the monumental infrastructure that were built to today we still make reference to the Third Mainland Bridge and many, I can reel out many of the things that we have today as monumental structures were built by the leaders of his era, particularly IBB himself, and the focus, the visionary in terms of goal getting of what they want. I mean,
but this was also an era of gross human rights abuses. This was an era where a journalist, for instance, Daily Giver, was killed, an era where an election, a free and fair election, was annulled, and in pursuance of that mandate, I'm talking of the person of MK Abiola, he died, you know, in that struggle. And someone the key player there writes a memoir and tells you, look, I'm sorry, even though I admit I was wrong. And case closed.
Yes, and exactly. What you rightly, don't forget that that was a military era. Military is not democracy. Military is the impunity of militarization of governance. And so, yes, and he's out here. And the beauty of this, if you listen to Professor Shibanjo and I think he did a fantastic work in the review of the book and handling some of those cases, you know, because it's about the future, it's not about the past. People who do not know how to handle, you know, the opportunities of now and yesterday cannot do well in going forward. And we are grateful to be alive to see that Babangida is regretting and recounting what he did. And that brings a lot of question, even concerning the 2023 general election. Are we going to wait another 30 years to know who really won the 2023 general election? These are the lessons to be learned. I mean, for him to come out and recount on some of the failures, some of the, what you call how the brigandage and how they handle some of the things they did should be a lesson for today, not to regurgitate on what happened yesterday. These are the focus of what people like Mr. Peter Obi, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, and a few likes of patriots in Nigeria are talking about. And sometimes we get to react emotionally and miss the lessons and the points that are there, which is what we should use today to be able to ensure that we do not repeat. Because when you look at what happened in 2023, it's almost like a repeat of what happened with the Buhari era. And it should be a shame, you know, for our nation 32 years down the line, you know, rigging elections from Edo State to Imo State to all the things that we see glaringly, vote buying, and what difference do we have today than what happened during
Dr. Paul, I'm still going to stay. I'm still going to stay with you on this, and of course, this is not, you know, my voice. I'm just echoing the opinion of some persons who might be watching as to the sincerity of the person of Peter Obi, which, of course, you have coined, you know, as the genesis of the Obidient Movement, and in your words, you said it mirrors integrity. Many have questioned his alliances, political alliance, that is. Some Nigerians will say, you know what, some politicians, you know, have been attributed or associated with corruption, they lack integrity, yet we see this man roll with many of these people. How can you say you want to bring about change, transparency, accountability, a new Nigeria, when many of these people are still your friends and, I mean, you even attend their functions? So is it not the same old wine, just in a different package?
But we're all Nigerians. The good, the bad, the ugly, we're all Nigerians. You can't judge me because I attend functions of people who have gone rogues or people who are seen as, you know, whatever coloration. You're going to judge me on how I rule, on how I carry out businesses, on the tenets of what I'm professing. And that's why we can look at Mr. Peter Obi as a chairman of a bank or as a governor or how he carries out his public life. That's how we're going to judge him. You can't judge me because I took a picture in a party or in an occasion with certain people. I mean, we're all Nigerians. And in any case, even to that effect, the people that we refer to as corrupt in Nigeria, we're not going to export them out of Nigeria. We're not going to kill them. We must show them. We must ensure that we change them. And the only reason and the only way we're going to do that is to show them the way to go. We're not going to say that we're not going to associate with them in terms of attending meetings with them. I don't even know what that is supposed to mean. I will judge Mr. Peter Obi with how he carries out his business. As governor, what did he do? And these are the issues we should be talking about. It's unprecedented. You know, I remember with Magos, Dr. Paco, you know, while he was in charge of even the debt management office, who said it's unprecedented that Mr. Peter Obi as governor did not borrow any money. You know, we're looking at how the Melinda Gates Foundation, you know, christened him as the person who, you know, had the champion in terms of the MDG goals, you know, ensuring education and health. We're looking at other indices where the police inspector general then said Anambra was safest in terms of the regime of Mr. Peter Obi, even as compared to what was happening in the state then. These are the things from security to education to cutting cost of governance. That's how you judge a person, not because Dr. Mo attended meeting with some other people. How am I carrying out my, how do I carry out my governance? What am I doing in terms of my integrity, in terms of how the ethos of how I carry out businesses? That's how we judge people, not based on photography, because I took a photo or because I'm on this channel. If tomorrow News Central is labeled with you know, some kind of whatever, will I now be said to be associating with her? I think that is a misconstrue of argument, and I think it's also part of the sentiment we need to grow out of as a people.
I would like to believe that maybe those with that mindset, you know, maybe you've been able to convince them. But let's move away from the person of Mr. Peter Obi, and let's talk about the Obidient Movement and its affiliation with the Labour Party. The Labour Party right now seems to be in a bit of leadership, will I call it crisis, where it appears divided. There are those who are pretty much pro-Abure and those that are pro-Oti and Obi, so to speak. And one would wonder how much of an impact this would rub off on the movement. So my question to you is this. Is there a dichotomy between the Obidient Movement and the Labour Party, or is it pari passu?
The connection between the Obidient Movement and the Labour Party is Mr. Peter Obi, who still is the leader, in quote, for lack of better word, of both the Labour Party and the Obidient Movement. The Obidient Movement is a distinct structure, and the Obidient Movement also has some of its members in other political parties, because the Obidient Movement is not a political party. The Labour Party is a political party. And as long as Mr. Peter Obi is still there, the Obidient Movement will still be there. But I can tell you clearly, I have friends in the APC and in the PDP who are in the Obidient Movement, who voted for Mr. Peter Obi. So the lines are clear, even though we are still evolving, you know, as a people. But
I'm sorry, I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to understand the statement you made. You said you have people from other political parties in the Obidient Movement. Then how do you ensure that you don't have moles amongst you? Because
once you have an agenda, there is a clear agenda, there's a clear purpose for the Obidient Movement. Her ethos are very clear. It's, you know, we can regurgitate it. We want a new governance and government in Nigeria where leaders are held accountable, where transparency from budgeting to total governance is transparent, where we have the best of us leading the rest of us, where we don't have people who have shady lifestyles, if you must run for an office, we should know your friends, we should know your family, we should know the school you went to, we should have your antecedents very clear. This is what the Obidient Movement is about, you know, a total cut in cost of governance. And so because the agenda is very clear, it's irrespective. The Obidient Movement is not about just change of power. It is about an attitudinal change. It is about a changing of the course of movement of Nigeria as a whole. It's about ensuring that we don't have people beating out of polling booths. It's to ensure that we don't have vote buying. It's to ensure that we have people that understand governance. I just returned back from Indonesia, you know, to understudy their health ministry with Mr. Peter Obi to ensure even the INEC and different governance ministries. And I can see what they're doing. That's what the Obidient Movement is about. It's not about the season of power. It's to ensure that in 10, 20 years from now, that we have a governance that cares about the people, not just governance that is there to just steal money, corrupt people, destroy our institutions. The Obidient Movement is very clear in her agenda. And for anybody who buys into this ethos, into this characterization, regardless of your party, if Mr. Peter Obi is your leader, then you are in the Obidient Movement. And I can tell you very clearly that's exactly what it is. So there is no confusion here because our agenda is very clear.
I'm trying to understand how, say maybe someone is a member of the People's Democratic Party too, and still claims to be an obedient, how their, will I call it, loyalty will not be divided along party lines. But let's talk about another.
No, I mean, it's good to clarify that. Okay. Even in the last election, I have a lot of people from the APC who voted for Mr. Peter Obi. I have people from the PDP who voted for Mr. Peter Obi. We have people across board from ADC, from different party who voted. The Labour Party or the PDP or APC, these are just vehicles that are used, to conduct elections. They are like vehicles. Therefore, I can get to Lagos. I can either fly or I can go by road. The point is for me to get to Lagos. The vehicle I'm using is just a vehicle that I'm using. That does not define who I am or what I'm about.
Okay. Now, just quickly, I'd like you to address a notion that, particularly online, that many obedients are aggressive, unyielding, once your opinion doesn't seem to align with them, they come at you so hard, and they are not tolerant. Is that true?
Well, I'm very intolerant of corrupt officials. I'm very intolerant of people who rig elections, murderers and killers, bandits and terrorists. I'm very intolerant of those people. And I think that's what many members of the Obidient Movement about. They're tired of people being kidnapped. They're tired of complacency in governance, if that is what you're talking about. But apart from that, I think we are very democratic as a people. If you look at the lifestyle of Mr. Peter Obi, he is very intolerant of corruption. And so are the Obidient Movement. We are just a people, that we were beaten out of polling booths during the 2023 general election. We were shot in Rivers State. We were burnt in Kano. We carried out the longest protest, maybe in Nigeria's history, but without a missing soul. We did not allow for the street lights, for the road, for houses. We did not kill or burn INEC. Because we're very democratic. We believe that Nigeria is ours. You can see us and judge us from who we are as a people. But guess what, Dapo? We will be intolerant for the things that come against Nigeria, for the things that want to destroy Nigeria, for governors. Even if you're a president and you do not uphold the integrity of our flag, of our coat of arms, of our national anthem, we will be very intolerant of you.
All right, let's look at 2027, of course, which is just around the corner, and a lot of talks have started in permutation. What's in it for the Obidient Movement? What's the strategy ahead? Some Nigerians, will tell you that it appears that like as if the opposition is being silenced, and the country seems to be, dovetailing into a one-party state. What's next for the Obidient Movement ahead of 2027?
Oh, of course, winning the presidential election is what's next for the Obidient Movement, ensuring that Nigeria regain back her course economically, politically, culturally, and to ensure that we, win people over the preferences and the biases and the bigotry, because the Obidient Movement, cuts across religious lines, party lines, cultural lines. It's a movement that warehouses every tribe in Nigeria and every religion. It has no room, it's not Wazobia. It's 600 languages, 250 ethnic group. This is what the Obidient Movement is about. And therefore, this is not the place to discuss our strategy, but I can tell you that every day we're walking down the line, we're visiting with different people, we're consulting. In any case, this is not an election year. But what is needed to be done legally, in timeline, the Obidient Movement is doing that as we speak. And come 2027, as the time elapses, you're going to see us roll out our plans. But I can assure you, home and abroad, work is being done. And
okay, I think we have a bit of connectivity issues there.
The true revolution that we saw in where we have young people come out in mass, to vote, we're going to see that. As we're gravitating towards election year, we would ensure that our job right now is about voter education. For people to understand those who are supposed to vote, how they are supposed to vote, what is INEC about, what is electoral reform about, educating the populace, ensuring that when the time comes, the electorate understand exactly what they're supposed to do. That's what we're doing right now. That's what we're supposed to do. And in timeline, a lot more things will be unveiled for the ballot revolution that is coming in 2027.
I mean, you use the word ballot revolution, one would wonder. But let's quickly look at some of the policies of this current administration. We know that since it hit the ground running, it removed subsidy, which Nigerians have been feeling the effect and the brunt, and also the unification of the currency. As a movement, what would you say so far? Are these policies taking us in the right direction, particularly for young persons?
Yeah, you can see that. Before I comment on that, I just want to draw you back a little when I speak about the ballot revolution, just coming back from Indonesia and having to engage with the commission, their counterpart of INEC, and speaking and asking questions. Indonesia has about 204 million voter registered members. Out of that, over 200 million, in the last election, they had over 80% participation. In Nigeria's last election, we have about 94 million registered voters. When you combine the result of Mr. Peter Obi, Atiku Abubakar, and Bola Ahmed Tinubu is still less than 25%. It tells you that we do not have a good representation. Based on the UN Charter, which is less than 50%, that is not an election based on that charter, because the election should have been, at best, repeated. So when you look at that, you can see clearly where the gaps are where Nigeria is concerned. And to speak into the issues of the policies and how this particular government is going about, the different policies, from the floating of the naira and also the subsidy removal, you can see that over 150 million Nigerians are in what we call multidimensional poverty by the statistics by the MBS. 150 million Nigeria, where a population of just 230 million Nigerians. And if 150 million Nigerians don't have electricity, cannot eat, do not have health insurance, cannot move, it tells you where these policies have taken us to. The other day, the students in Ibadan were protesting for 100 days of power outage. You are seeing every day Nigerians are dying in droves. The other time in Suleja, scooping petrol from the road. You go to Jigawa, in different places, Nigerians are dying in droves. Kidnapping is being heightened, all over the place. This is a result of the policies that does not get down to the grassroots. Nigerians are hungry, they are angry. They've gotten to the point where they can't even cry anymore. This is what this policy is doing. Yet, this government is buying yachts and jets and spending billions of nairas in renewing the VP's residence. We're talking about trillions of nairas for what? Coastal roads, when we don't have interstate roads in Nigeria. I just returned back from Kaduna, just yesterday. You can't even go to Kafanchan. It took 3.5 hours to Kafanchan and another 3 hours to Kaduna, just within Abuja and Kaduna. This is what we're talking about. So what policies? Where are we in Nigeria? These policies have run us aground. Nigerians are impoverished more than ever before. We can't move. This is where we are as a people. And so talking about where we are, we're still buying petrol at an exorbitant price, and what do you want to talk about, Dapo, in terms of these policies? Even the policies of we do not have any policy that feels the grassroots.
So on a scale, just before I let you go, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the administration so far?
I don't know what rating to give to this. It's a Buhari Tinubu continuous led administration. And so the rating that you give to the Buhari's administration is still, that's where we are. If anything, we are going down, So if the Buhari's administration is at 10/2, 2/10, yeah, maybe we're at 1/10 right now because things have deepened in terms of its backwardness. So that's where we are, Dapo.
All right. Thank you so much for your time on the program. It's been a pleasure. Dr. Paul Moses, the Executive Director of Free Nigeria and a member of the Obidient Movement. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.